Welcome back. Now, in my last video, somebody made a comment how Trump wanted to be a dictator based off of the tariffs. The president worked for the government, bro. That's clear as I could say it. And I think the government likes working with Trump because Trump can make the government money. Looking at the situation just based off of tariffs. Now you have three branches of government. You have the legislative, the judicial, and the executive. And I think the president is the executive because, he make executive orders. But in my last video, I felt like my definition of a tariff or what I explained is not good enough. So I want you guys to check out this video. It'll probably give a better definition of tariffs. Let's check it out.
A massive effect, positive effect. It's going to be a positive, not a negative.
Okay, now let's answer this question. Who pays the tariff? Is it the foreign country? Is it the consumer? Or is it the importer? So think of what you think is the correct answer, but first let me show you what Trump says.
A tariff is a tax on a foreign country. That's the way it is, whether you like it or not. A lot of people like to say, oh, it's a tax on us. No. It's a tax on a foreign country.
And that's the definition I said.
It's a tax on a country that's ripping us off and stealing our jobs.
Okay, so according to Trump, a tariff is a tax on a foreign country. So that may be his interpretation, but let me tell you how it works. So the question is, who pays the tariff? Okay, so when Walmart imports goods from China, Walmart pays the tariff. So let's just say that Walmart imports a vacuum cleaner from China to sell in America. So let's say that Walmart buys the vacuum for $100 and they sell it for $150 and they make a $50 profit. Now, if there's a 10% tariff, then Walmart buys the vacuum for $100, but they need to pay a $10 tax to the government. If they continue to sell the vacuum for $150, then Walmart's profits will go down from 50 to 40. Now, in order to maintain their $50 profits, Walmart will increase the price of the vacuum from $150 to $160. So essentially, the tax gets passed on to the consumer. And then the end result is that Americans end up paying $10 more for a vacuum. But then you can make the argument that Americans can choose to buy a vacuum cleaner that's made in America. But look at the vacuums made in America. You know how much a Kirby vacuum costs? It's like $500. Like, I'm not going to spend $500 on a vacuum cleaner. Or you can buy a Hoover, but those are still more expensive, around $180. So again, the U.S. consumer ends up paying more in many instances when there are no cheaper made in America alternatives. Okay, so Walmart pays the tax. They pass that additional cost onto the U.S. consumer. Now, where does the tax money go? Walmart sends it to the U.S. Treasury, and it becomes more money for the government to spend. Now, let's talk about this.
No, not the government making more money. No.
How much more tax money are we talking about? Like, what's the potential of the new tax revenue for the U.S. government? So in 2024, the U.S. government collected a total of nearly $5 trillion in tax collections. A 10% tariff on all imports is expected to bring in $400 billion of new taxes each year. So therefore, a 10% tariff would bring in about 8% of what the government currently collects. So it would not be anywhere close enough to fund the entire government. Now, I know what some people are going to argue, but I'm already 2 steps.
All right. So, with that being said, we seen in the video, tariffs tax the companies. So, would this make other companies move back to America? Is that the end goal in all this? Seem like us as the consumers and foreign companies are supposed to pay more while the government makes more money. Is that the end goal in all this? The only companies that won't get charged in the tariff thing is companies from the United States. So You know what I'm saying? That's kind of crazy. But back to, is it a dictatorship? Now, I'm telling you, with situations like the one in Canada, I think Congress has to come in and stop this situation because they have to take some type of power from President Trump, because at the end of the day, you can't cut off all the electricities in 3 states. So when Canada threatened them, I think Congress has to come and step in. But let me show you a little bit more of that also.
Another big probability is that Congress stops Trump. A big question is, can Trump impose a 10% tariff on all imports without congressional approval? The U.S. Constitution grants the power to impose tariffs to Congress, not the president. However, Congress allows the president to impose tariffs if certain statutory conditions are met. So here are the exceptions. If there are imports that threaten national security, foreign policy, or the economy. If there are trade agreement violations or unfair trade practices. So if Trump attempts to pass a universal 10% tariff and Congress tries to stop him, then he could try to use one of these exceptions. So you've already seen this in action. It's kind of like how Biden forgave $10,000 to student loans, and then Congress said that you can't do that. And then Biden tried to use an exception under the HEROES Act, but then Congress said that that exception does not apply to the situation. So listen, I understand that the House and Senate are both controlled by the Republicans. However, the Republicans do not have 60 seats in the Senate. But they can attempt to use reconciliation for 50. But you also know that rhinos exist.
All right. So I think companies move to other countries because cheaper labor and better resources. Did you know 97% of clothing, drip, it come from foreign countries? Because probably the resources are, like they said, cheaper labor. Like you guys know about the Nikes, the Nikes y'all be wearing, they made in somewhere in Thailand or China because it's like cheaper labor. So with understanding that, you have to understand how the world works sometimes. And I think that's why presidents don't have that much power, because it's like one person shouldn't be able to make all the decisions. Somebody should be able to step in and be like, hey, you're way in over your head right now. So, with that being said, leave in the comments, is it a good thing or a bad thing to increase the tariffs on these companies? Make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure y'all subscribe, man. Your boy back in here, man. And make sure you tune into the next video. Yeah.